We're looking for something always as an investor is a mismatch multiplier, I call this. It's the difference between perception and reality. The perception is that the resource sector is bad, that the economy is going to crash, gold's going to go down, nobody wants to put money into it. But the reality is that central banks are buying more now, double than they did in 2018. What we know is that the reality is that the who's who, the BIS, the central banks are buying. That's the mismatch we're looking for. We want to buy stuff when it's hated and when it's cheap. So it's been out of favor. Gold and silver have kind of been out of favor. I've been talking about the bottom since about September. So if you've been watching my channel, we don't hate it as much as a lot of people. Also with silver, the supply is very, very low. As I showed you, the silver ETF is getting drained, right? They're pulling all the silver out of it. It's with the lowest level it's been in last several months. And at the same time, the demand is high. We have all these reasons why demand is high, including China coming back on board. And that's going to be the biggest buyer of commodities. And like I said, the market is catching up. I showed you those couple different silver miners are up 50, 60% the last couple of months. This is up almost double in the last couple of months. And so I think it's a good company. I'm not saying to buy it, but it's a good learning opportunity. And hopefully you
Well, haven't you seen what's going on at the Fed Reserve in Washington? It's all boarded up. They're bringing it all down.
Hi, it's me again. Yeah, this is the Federal Reserve. Nothing federal or reserve or anything to do with the government, if you're unaware. They did have, for a while, fencing up around here, but this, I would say this is probably in the last month. This is relatively new, these walls. I hope they're blowing the shit up. Sorry for the language.
They're destroying the Fed, literally, like you said, gold will destroy the Fed. And that's exactly what's happening. They're showing us that the Fed is being brought down. They're putting all the debt, right, back on the Fed to destroy the
Madam
Fed.
Speaker, the United States is facing an inflation and debt crisis not seen in over 40 years. West Virginians have seen the value of their savings erode before their very eyes because of reckless tax and spend policies. We know who's responsible for the current inflation crisis, but what in our country's history has allowed us to get to this point? The answer can actually be traced back to 1971, when President Nixon took the United States off the gold standard. The gold standard means tying the dollar directly to the value of gold. Under the gold standard, any American would be able to trade their dollars for a fixed amount of gold. By linking the dollar to the value of gold, the money supply could only be increased if the supply of gold increases. This connection protects the purchasing power of your dollars. That is why I introduced legislation to return the United States to the gold standards. Had we been on the gold standard or some other fixed standard, we'd not be in the inflation crisis we're in today. I look forward to working with the Republican majority to make sure this issue gets attention. Thank you, and I yield back.
All right. It's all done by design to bring it all down. That's why we got all these things happening. They've got to bring it to zero, reset, completely destroy it, but not the bad reset, the good reset that's coming. We're going back
We're
to
talking more like
currency.
Nasara Jasara type thing.
Correct. But
Right.
you can also see, I go by facts and evidence, as you know, Nino. You see what happened with Putin. He backed it by gold bricks, right? He backed
Right.
the ruble by gold. What are we seeing in Congress now? The bill that's coming out for going back to gold back. So there's no coincidences,
Yeah,
you know, it's
none of
all
this is
happening.
coincidence.
And then when you see all around the world that all countries are stocking up on gold, you're starting to, you know, you start to think to yourself, well, hey, they're preparing for something, aren't they?
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
When do you think that switch is going to happen? I mean, I've talked to Bo Pony, who's a prophetic, I guess you could say, and he believes 2023 is going to be the first big break of the dam of the financial institutions just, taking it down. Yeah,
I agree with him. It's coming.
Yeah,
it's coming. Now, God, as I say to everybody, that everything has to happen, in a sequence, right? As we know, the plan's event driven, and there's going to be false flags, right? Q's told us false flags are coming, and disinformation is necessary. Okay, so there's going to be succession of events happening before we even reach the reset, so to speak. But everything's happening in the background. All right. So there's no coincidences that we're starting to see the destruction of our financial system, or the cabal's financial system. And you're also seeing the stock market, mate. Haven't you seen the stock market? Boom.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. There you go.
Yeah.
It's a
This
destruction. Sorry, mate.
No, this is all going to be happening at warp speed now.
Oh yeah, mate. Oh, I can't wait. I can't wait, mate. You know, it's great. You know, no one deserves to live in poverty, mate. That's
No.
my saying. You know, no one does. You know, and that's the thing. That's where we're going back to reclaiming our sovereignty, which is very important. You know, we've been put in classes and, you know, become a bunch of debt slaves. Our education system is corrupt. Everything has to change. That's what a full reset means. It's not just the financial part, it's also the education, medical, the whole lot, the whole gamut. Everything has to be reset, go back to zero.